1 week long webinar workshop at SS College. It is my privilege to introduce Dr. Kishore Chandra Shadpathisar to our participant. Dr. Kishore Chandra Shadpathisar was our own people only after last year. He was at NIT Silchar. Dr. Kishore Chandra Shadpathy is presently the Chief Librarian and Head Library Documentation and Information Science Division at Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata. He is also the in charge Prashanta Chandra Mohalanobish Memorial Museum and Archives at the institute. He came to the present position with more than 24 years of professional experience serving as the librarian in prestigious national institutions like National Institute of Technology Silchar and Indian Institute of Management Indore. Earlier, he has also served at Punjabi University Patiala, Center for Environmental Education Ahmedabad, and at the Center for Management Training and Research Chandigarh in various capacities. Besides, he also served as the coordinator media relation at IIM Indore and the coordinator for Center for Educational Technology and Continuing Education at the NEET Silchar. Dr. Kishore Chandra Shadpathy has undergone several advanced training programs under SARC and UNESCO fellowship. As a part of the Mortensen Associate Program, he attended Professional Development Program for Library Leaders and Innovators at the University of Illinois, USA in 2014. He has completed projects sponsored by the Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India. He has implemented ERMSS, RFID, DVR technology at NIT Silchar and IIM Indore. He has organized several national and international level training program, workshop, conferences, and seminars. He is a member of several committees. He was the Indian Ambassador of International Librarian Network Australia, Ambassador GAPS UK, Associate Editor, DOAS, and founder core committee member of NIT Consortia. He has published more than 50 papers and has presented several papers at national and international conferences. He has edited 8 books and 5 proceedings. Besides, for his outstanding contribution to the field of library and information service profession, he was awarded Society for Information Science, SIS, Young Information Scientist Award for 2006. Satkal Young Librarian Award for 2008 and felicitated by Punjab University Chandigarh in 2015. We all very much fortunate to listen him today, and I welcome Dr. Kishore Chandra Shadpathisar to join his this virtual platform, and we are delighted to introduce him. Thank you, sir. Good evening, sir. Hello, sir. Shadpathy sir, please. Hello, sir.
Down. My video is off. I think no, from your end. Both audio and video is off from your end, not from my end.
No,
so
sir.
Can you ask somebody to unmute? Now they have unmuted me. Now I cannot start the video because no, it has been stopped from your end.
Sir, I am checking.
Yeah. Now, I think, thank you, Dr. Dev, for that nice introduction. No, in fact, it is just like homecoming for me. So I left NIT Silchar just exactly 3 years before. When I decided to carry forward my career in a metropolitan city. So, but I served NIT Silchar for almost more than 16 years. So that is a pretty long time. If you can come to, if you are going to NIT Silchar, you can find the new library building. That is one of my wonderful contribution to the institutions. So thank you very much for inviting me to share my experience. Let me share my PPT, then I will start talking about things. Just 1 minute. Give me 1 minute time. Yeah. Can you see my PPT right now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's visible.
It's visible, no? Okay, fine. So, okay. Because most of them are we are faculty members and we are in the academic world, and most of our bread and butter comes from our research, teaching, research, and consultancy. And all this teaching, research, and consultancy is measured by certain parameters. So that is called a research impact. So I'll be talking about the research impact. What is research impact, and what are the different parameters of research impact? How to calculate that research impact? In fact, whether you call it H index or G index or H10 index, there are a lot of buzzwords are there. Specifically the with the introduction of this quality parameters in different educational institutions, all these things has become a very relevant in the in our context. So talking about the current topic, that is research impact, what I call it as a research metrics. Research metrics is the qualitative analysis of scientific and scholarly output and their impacts. So that is what is called research metrics. Research metrics includes a variety of measures and statistical methods for assessing the quality and broader impact of scientific and scholarly research. The moment we started writing papers in Indian journals, that is national journals or international journals, then this whole concept of impact factor comes to our mind. Specifically, earlier there was no such compulsion for the faculty members, for the researchers to write in the journals, whether it's a high impact factor journal or a low impact factor journal. But with the UGC linking the whole our career progression, the promotional systems to our research contributions, research output, this impact factor, this journal impact factor has become very much important. If you are writing any journal which is not recognized by UGC that they have right now come up with that matrix of CCARE, where you can find out which are the journal which has been recognized by UGC and which is not recognized by UGC. So in that context, the whole concept of research metrics or research impact become much more important. There are many ways to measure research impact. We'll go through all those things during this presentations. One is impact factor, that measures the impact of journal, not the individual impact. So the impact factor measures the impact of a journal, not the impact of an individual. Now, similarly, we have many tools to look into the individual and article level impacts. specifically those who are want to know the impact factor of a particular individual. They have to find out what is the impact factor of a particular individual, that is called H index. Will be coming to you the way to measure this impact. There are several things are there. Impact factor of a journal, that is we call it journal impact factor. Journal impact factor can be checked through journal citations report or Shimago rankings. So that is one. The individual impact can be checked through the citation of your articles. So citation of our articles can be checked through either Web of Science or Scopus or Google Scholar. And all above these three major databases, that is Web of Science, Scopus, and Google Scholar, they calculate the H index. So your H index as a researcher can vary. Can have a H index, different H index in Google Scholar, different H index in Scopus, different H index in Web of Science, because all these three databases covers the different set of journals. Like Web of Science covers around 12,000 high impactful journals, and Scopus covers around 18,000 plus journals, and Google Scholars covers almost all journals in that sense. So when you are looking into a H index of a particular researcher, you will find always the person gets a higher rank in Google Scholar, then a little bit lower rank in Scopus, and a little bit lower in Web of Science. So that is what is there. There are also certain other databases are there which provide limited citation information. So these are not very popular in India. These are very popular in abroad, because most of these journals are having on subject specific, like EBSCO-host or cyclo information which is related to psychology, or PubMed, that is PubMed Central, that is related to medical sciences. Then MBAS, that is related to science subject. SciFinder more into chemistry kind of things. Then there is another concept right now coming up, that is called Allmetrics. Allmetrics is a tool which measures the impact of everything. Now, if you have read it in a blog, or if you have written a newspaper article, or if you have even written something in the social media. So Allmetrics maps everything. So that covers the Web 2.0 entire gamut of other things, except those journals that is there. And there are, I believe, at the end of the session, I'll come to certain things when, as a faculty member, as a teacher, there are certain sites to enhance our what you call visibility. I will show that what are those sites where you can create your own account, which is free of cost. Then you can then you can enhance your visibility in that sense. Then coming to the research metric, there are, as I have already told you, there are several research metrics. One is journal research metrics. Journal research metrics is called impact factor, which helps to track the citation pattern within the journal and determine which journals are highly cited and which journals are not highly cited. Then there is a metrics called author metrics. Author metrics are there to measure the impact and productivity of an individual researcher. Then there is called a article metrics. Article metrics or citation tracking is used to determine an article or book or journal or a particular author has been cited by another one. So that is a article metrics. And all metrics, as I have told you, that tracks measures the impact of the paper, data sets, website, and social media. So there are several of these. The question comes to our mind, why all this is important. Why at all I should bother that whether I have good H index, whether my journals are published in high impact factor journals, why it should be important for us. So as a faculty member or as a researcher, but these research metrics are right now being used in the academic institutions very widely. No, in abroad it is it is essential. This is a part of the whole systems. In India, in research organizations, it is a part, but in other colleges or universities, this is taking a momentum. In most of the cases, the administration or the management track your research impact. When you start giving application for the grants for funding, if you are writing a project proposal right now, the funders, they will check out what is your research impact, what is your H index, whether that is the indication that you are a good researcher, and if you are getting this project, you will do justice in doing the project. And sometimes this is being used for the promotion purpose. No, but in the university system right now, I think in the most of the faculty members, everybody knows that if you have this kind this number of paper published in this kind of journals, you will get a promotion from assistant professor to associate professor and associate professor to professor. Otherwise, you are not formally eligible to promotion kind of things, because now that is being, this quality aspect being utilized for that. Then how and why your work is being used, to look at the citations and alternative metrics to assess the impact, and also in the departmental and faculty level to review, and as a part of national assessment exercise like NAC, or ranking purpose like NIRF, or you have bottle innovation ranking system. For those kind of systems, they require what is your research output and what is the impact of that. Recently, Government of India has started, that is the PSA, Principal Scientific Advisor to PMO. They have started a new ranking systems called Research and Innovations ranking, primarily targeting towards the research labs. So we are planning to participate in that, and there it was one of the major parameter is what is your institutional contributions in terms of papers, not only in either Web of Science or Scopus Index journals, but how many of the papers are cited in top 10 percentile of in a particular field. So that is what they have taken the parameter. It's not right now only whether your journals journal articles are being published in Scopus Index journals or Web of Science Index journals. It's not, the matter has gone a little bit higher level right now. Now they are looking into whether your article is being published in top 10 percentile of the journal in that particular field or not, because for these things they have now got separate numbers which will increase your status of the institutions. Then there are some other reasons that as a researcher, as a faculty member, you wanted to confirm whether your research findings will whatever articles you have written, where you have produced your research highlights, whether that are being properly attributed and credited, whether other people are using them, people are working on your working further on your research finding, they are improving on your research finding or not. For their things, that is important. Until unless you know how many people are citing your paper, how many people are referring to your work, this is not possible. So therefore, for tracking purpose, that is also important. And it is also important to identify similar kind of projects. So who the other people are citing your work, whether they are working in a similar kind of research project. If you can know that, then they are your possible collaborators. You can contact them for further collaborative research in the future. Also, that is another thing that to document the research impact, that is important. Then the issues that you have to consider while publishing in a high impact factor journal or low impact factor journal, these are some of the things as a faculty member, as a researcher, you have to look into these issues. Number one, citation counts can be affected by number of other ways. I will give you some of the examples. You like like-minded. You have 10 friends working in the same field in different institutions. You form a kind of collegium. And just like you might have seen in the educational institution system in the university or college level, if there is a what do you call tender coming up, you will find all this what do you call vendors. Vendors means this contractors. They will individually they will form a gang. They will decide in their selves. Somebody will for this project. Somebody will quote high. Others will quote low, and later on some other project, so that they can manipulate the whole process. Similarly, so if you have 10-15 people come together and you take a decision, whatever paper you write, I am going to cite that, and whatever I am going to write, whether it is relevant or irrelevant, you cite that, so that both of the citations goes up. So your citation, my citation goes up. That is the unethical way of doing research. But that is somewhere crudely people are also using those kind of techniques. Then there is no single source is comprehensive. So if you are looking for a research impact, it's Google Scholar is not always comprehensive. Neither Scopus nor Web of Science. So you said we have to look for multiple.
Sir, kindly share your slides.
Sir, your slide is only one is showing. The second, third, fourth, sixth is not. We can't see that one.
Okay, just take me that. Thank you very much for giving that. Let me share once more. Is it coming?
So first is coming.
Okay, first is coming. Okay. I think just 1 minute. Let me just 1 minute. Now is it coming?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes, sir. Now it's coming, sir.
It's coming. Okay. Fine. So let me come to that. So you can, if there is any issues, you can interrupt me anytime. So that it's not that big issue. It's not one-way communication. It will be better that you can interrupt me in between. That's no single source is comprehensive. Number 3 is publication date may also affect your the result. If you are written an article that impact after 2 years only, you will able to find out that journal impact. Individual job articles impact you can find it immediately, but if you are looking for the journal's impact, it is only after 2 years. I'll come to that little bit later when I'll be talking about what is the H index and how to calculate the H index. So I'll be coming to that. The number 4 is highly cited article do not always mean excellent research. Esteem must also be taken into account. Then research measures across the discipline may differ. If you are working in physics, you cannot compare your H index with somebody who is working in chemistry or who is working in humanities or social science subject. So that will be very unfair, because the research comparison should be within the discipline only. Physics to physics, chemistry to chemistry can be discussed. Then what is citation analysis? The citation analysis is the study of the impact and assumed quality of an article, an author, an institution based on the number of times work or the author have been cited by others. I'll come to giving a particular example to that in the next slide. Then no, why to use it? No, we use it to find out how much impact of a particular article has had been showing which author based on some work upon it or cited it as an example within their own paper. To find out more about the field of topic by reading the papers that cite a seminal work in that area. Then if you compare the different sources, because we have for citation analysis we have three major parameters, as I have told you. One is Web of Science, second is Scopus, third is Google Scholar. If you go look into Web of Science, the subject focus is science citations index is there, social science citation index is there, and art and humanities citation index is there. You won't find health sciences over there or life sciences. That you will find individual journals are there, but more focus is on these three subjects. On the other way around, if you look into Scopus, the health sciences is covered there, physical sciences is covered there, social sciences is covered there, life sciences is also covered there. But art and humanities subjects are lacking in that Scopus. Therefore, in the university system, in most of the faculty members from humanities side, they complain that our papers or our journals are not covered in Web of Science or Scopus. What to do? So that's why they complain. Google Scholar theoretically it covers all that discipline. If you look into the coverage of Web of Science, it covers almost 12,000 peer-reviewed journals, in which there are 1,300 open access journals are there. It is 30,000 books. With 10,000 books added annually. It is more than 2.6 million chemical compounds and 1 million chemical reactions. It is 1,48,000 conference titles and almost 12,000 added annually. But if you look into the Scopus, where it is 12,000 peer-reviewed journals, it is more than 21,500 peer-reviewed journals, over 360 trade publications, more than 4,200 open access journals, more than 1,20,000 book titles, 7.2 million conference papers, and like that. And if you look into Google Scholars, so it is Google Books are there, so it covers all Google Books, and most of the Google Books are done under Millennium Book Project. So there are several lakhs of books available under that. So it also covers dissertations, peer-reviewed articles, patents, case laws, trade journals. So almost all kind of things are covered in there. The time span in Web of Science, these journals are from 1900 onwards. In Scopus, it is 1820 onwards. But if you look into Google Scholar, it is almost dating back to 1660 onwards. Similarly, if you look into the strength of Web of Science, because these are the things we always as an academic community discuss about these things. So that's why I thought of giving this slides. What is the difference between the Web of Science journals, Scopus journals, and Google Scholar journals. Strength, if you look into the Web of Science, it is an excellent search limit by disciplines you can do, because their interface is very comprehensive. It is most well-known citation analysis index, because they started with Web of Science. Thomson Reuters, ISI has started Web of Science, so they are the pioneer in this field. And citation analysis goes back further than Scopus, because Scopus just started in 1990s onwards, but they were there for last 25 more than 35, 40 years. But if you look into the Scopus, there is a better open access journal coverage is there. More open access journals are covered over there. Better foreign language coverage is there. There you will find different multi-language journals in Scopus. And better social science, arts, humanities coverage is there in comparison to Web of Science, because Web of Science got only 12,000, it has got more than 25,000 plus journals. But if you look into the Google Scholar, it is an excellent resource for findings, cited reference. It's free because the previous two are paid versions. Almost you have to spend something around 20,000 US dollar for annual subscription for the institutions. Therefore, most of the institutions are not substantially funded to subscribe these resources. Even at ISI Calcutta, we subscribe to Scopus because we don't have that much of fund to subscribe both Scopus and Web of Science. Then if you look into the weakness, weaker in arts and Web of Science is weaker in arts, humanities, social science content, then Scopus, that is one of the weakness. Then if you go to Scopus, some search cannot be made earlier than 1960s. And Google Scholar, anything, there are very irrelevant contents are also being cited there. Now coming to the our major point, what is H index? Because all these things we are talking about, whether it's Web of Science or the Scopus or Google Scholar, where our papers are being cited over there. What do we get out of that citations? From the citations, we can identify our research impact. What is our what our papers are doing, whether they are being referred by other faculty members or other researcher in our area or not, whether we are in the right direction of doing the research or not. That is one part. Then you can calculate what is your H index, or that reflects your research capability. So the H index captures the output based on the total number of publications and the total number of citations to those works, providing a focused snapshot of an individual's research performance. Suppose if a researcher has 15 papers and each of the paper got 15 citations, so your H index will be 15. Suppose you have written, as a researcher, you have written, suppose 25 papers. As of now, in last 5 years or 10 years of your career, you have written 25 papers. Out of that 25 papers, suppose your 5 papers got 5 citations. 5 papers got each paper got 5 citations, and all other papers didn't have that much of citations. So your H index will be 5. So that depends upon the number of paper got the citation. So if your 10 paper has got, each of them got 10 citations, so your H index will be 10. If your 5 papers got citation each paper got citation 5, so your H index will be 5. So therefore, the people who write more papers and write purely for research focused papers, their paper like to be cited by others more. So naturally, their citation is going to, their H index is going to be high. So therefore, you will find senior professors or senior lecturers having more year of experience normally gets more citation than young researcher. So that is H index. So H index is useful for comparing researcher of similar career length. So that the things I'm talking. So if there is an assistant professor who you cannot compare the age index of an assistant professor with a professor. It may happen that assistant professor may get more age index than a professor. If the professor is not writing quality papers, or not writing papers in the highly impactful journals or more visibility journals, so naturally he or she is going to get less citations. So his age index may be poor. So therefore, you can that will be very unfair if you start comparing with one person with another person from one field to another field. Similarly, but you can compare in a department. Suppose you are in a mechanical engineering department, so you have 5 professors. There you can compare because all of them are in a professor's position, so they have covered a certain years of service. There it is be easy to compare that who is doing better research and who is not doing better research through age index, because that becomes a common playing field. Otherwise, comparing with the different disciplines or different subjects, different areas will be very unfair. So that is one thing. Then this age index is not useful for comparing the researcher from the different fields and different disciplines. Then there is something called called Itin Index. So Itin Index refers to the number of paper with 10 or more citations. It was introduced in July 2011 by Google as a part of their project on Google Scholar, a search engine dedicated to academic and related papers. So if your paper got more than 10 citations, and you have 5 papers, then your Itin index will be 5. You have 100 paper which got all the 100 papers got more than 10 citations, so you are going to get 100 as your Itin index. Then some of the key tools, as already I have told you, to find out the H index is Scopus and Web of Science and Google Scholar. Then coming to the another aspect of the whole research impact is the journal impact. So we have now discussed currently what is the impact of individual faculty members through H index or Itin index. Now we will talk about what is the impact factor of a journal. The impact factor of a journal measures the frequency with which the average article in a journal has been cited in a particular year. It is used to measure the importance or the rank of journals by calculating the times the articles are cited. I'll come to the example a little bit later. How the impact factor is calculated? The calculation is based on 2-year period and involves dividing the number of times articles cited by the number of articles that are citable. Suppose you are calculating the impact of a journal, say that has been published in 2019. If a journal of 2019, so you have to take the total number of articles published in 2017 and 2018. So you have to take 2-year prior years of the total article published and the subsequent years, that is in 2020, the how many of them were cited. So if we got 2017 citations and 2018 citations, then you merge them, you calculate, plus them, you what do you call it? You plus them. You you plus them, then you get the sum total of 2 years things. Then that has to be divided by the total number of articles published in these 2 years. So that will be the research impact of that particular journal. So this is the total number of articles published in 2 years that were cited by the journal in the next subsequent years, divided by the total number of citable items. That means total number of articles published in those 2 years. That will show that the total impact factor of a particular journal. So normally, if you see 10 impact factor is supposed to be taken as good impact factor. No, normally in academic arena in India, 3 and above we take it. No, this is a good impact factor journal. Though there are journals are there which are having more than 30 impact factor, they are having 40 impact factor. But in India, most of the journals that we know, our researchers take it thinks that if it's got more than 3, so that is supposed to be a good impact factor. This impact factors may be used by the authors to decide to submit the articles for a publications, because if the impact factor is high, so the researchers are more tend to publish in high impact factor journals. Then as a librarian, we take a decision in the collection development also. If the journal impact factor is high, that is more likely to be selected by the faculty member for subscription. Then academic departments to assess the academic productivity, like we do our internal assessment, which department got department wise impact factor. Also we calculate each index department wise. Okay, what is the total number of articles being published by a particular department, then which are the journals they are selecting. So there is a tools called Insight, or there is a tool called Simago. These are the two tools that is internationally available to find out which are the journals are having high impact factor, or because they rank the journals. Insight and Simago. These are the two major tools which do this journal ranking. These are the only two official things. The rest of the things they rank it, these are all bogus. They don't have any official authenticity. They don't give the way how they have calculated the journals to be put, whether it's high impact factor or low impact factor. They don't say. So officially in any kind of national or international ranking or any kind of government ranking, when we start ranking the journal, find out the journal, which are the journals to be taken as top ranked journals, there are only two tools, Insight and Simago journal ranking. So therefore, if you are looking for really want to know what is the rank of a particular journal in a particular discipline. Suppose in mathematics there are 1,000 journals published worldwide. So what is the number one journal in according to the ranking? Or what is the top 10 journals according to that ranking in that particular field? So either you have to go to Simago, or you have to go to Insight. Insight is from Web of Science. Simago is from Scopus, that is of Elsevier. So there are the four major research tools are there to measure the journal's impact. That is a journal citation report. Journal citations report is being by Clarivate analysis right now. Earlier it was Web of Science. Now it has been taken over by Clarivate analysis. Then there is another called Simago journals rank, SGR. So the first is JCR, second is SJR, and the third is SNIP things. So first one is of Clarivate analysis, which is covered all the journals that is indexed in Web of Science. So that is more than 12,000 journals. And if you look into the Shimago, that is Scopus product, which is of Elsevier. So it is covered more than 15,000 journals and publishers over more than 4,000 journals. Now this is has increased to more than 20,000 journals. I hope I have to cross check it. No. Then SNIP. SNIP is source for normalizing the impact factor of because if you want to normalize putting up statistical formula which between a high impact factor and the low impact factor journal, what are the medium range journals which you wanted to publish? So you have to go to SNIP impact factor. So there are the certain bogus impact factor sites are available. You will find lot of journals these days which are being published as predatory journals, which they ask, they will ask you, they will publish your journal within 24 hours. They don't have any kind of peer review process in that sense. If you go to internet, I was looking into internet giving several impact factor. These are all bogus impact factor which officially they don't get any recognition by any of the international agencies. So that is site factor, general impact factor, global impact factor, Global Institute of Scientific Information journal impact factor, then International Society for Research Activity ISRA impact factor, then scientific journal impact factor. So as a faculty member, as a researcher, if you are looking for authentic impact factor of the journal, you have to either go to the respective publisher site, say it's Elsevier or Springer or Taylor and Francis. You go to particular journal, the journal will give the impact factor which is taken, and they will give their whether it's according to Shimago or this is according to Insight, that is Web of Science. They will be giving that information over there. Except these two, all of the impact factor are based on make money. Because a lot of faculty members, researchers are right now under pressure to publish, because in India right now either you publish or you perish in the academic scenario. So because of that peer pressure, there is a there is a red race for publishing these articles overnight, where journals ask you to pay 3,000 rupees, 4,000 rupees, or 5,000 rupees, and they will say that we have this impact factor according to global impact factor or according to scientific journal impact factor. So, but these are all bogus impact factor sites. Then tips for improving the citation metrics. That is, as a faculty member, as a researcher, normally we ignore certain things, but in longer terms, that has a larger impact. As a faculty member or as a researcher, if you are writing some articles, be sure that you are consistent in writing your name in a particular fashion. Sometimes I write Kishore Chandra Shadpathisar, sometimes I write Kishore Shadpathisar, sometimes I write KC Shadpathisar, Kishore C Shadpathisar. So all this makes sites to keep a track on that and put it into a single entity. Right now, I'll be coming little bit later, where you can create your own profile, that is ORCID profile, which will be a unique identifier as a researcher, as a scholar for you, so that you select one ID. But as a researcher or the faculty member, be consistent the way you use your name. So what is your natural name? You use it everywhere, whether you write an article, whether you write a newspaper clippings, whether you write a blog, whether you write a things. Because these days there is a matrix called all matrix. Now all matrix can map everything. So all matrix can map your blog also later on. So there are are other things are coming up. I'll come to in the end of the presentation that how many other new things are coming up where we don't know, even we don't bother to do those kind of things. So those things are important. Then monitor and manage your author profile in Scopus, Google Scholar, and Web of Science. Google Scholar, you can always have a track on your Google Scholar. If you are not having a Google Scholar ID, this is free. You throw your Gmail ID, you create your Google Scholar, and you find out it will automatically pull all the papers available in the net, in different platforms, publishers platforms, social science, social media network platforms, academic social media network platforms, that is SSRN, or you have Academia Edu, or you have ResearchGate. So it pulls up all the articles from there to things. If you find that some of the articles are not there, there is a provision for manually correcting the data in Google Scholar. So make sure that you are correcting those data manually and giving that correct information there. If you have a common name, create a profile in the database to record all your publications. Make your profile public. Google Scholar Citation, sometimes people don't make the profile public, so it will not come to the public knowledge. Then register yourself as an author, create your profile in ORCID, so that will give a unique identity number, so that later on anywhere you are publishing, you can give that ORCID number, so that will be your unique identity. Then try to publish as much as in the open access platform. I know open access, publishing in open access platform is not very easy for Indian scholars, because most of the high impact factor journals, those high impact factor open access journals have a APC charges, so article processing charges. As of now, our systems, our institute doesn't have supporting us in providing open access articles. But if you find there are certain open access articles which is having without APC charges, try to publish in those things, because in open access platform the chances of getting citation is almost 4 to 5 times higher than the paid platforms. Then establish and monitor your presence in the web. So in the internet, establish your presence, monitor your presence, update your presence, utilize strategies for discoverability. I will come to know how to facilitate your work to be discoverable in the net. There are some tools are available. Present, participate, and collaborate with other researchers in the field, so that if it's an interdisciplinary research, the citation is going to be a little bit higher. These are all established by research. If you have multidisciplinary and multi-institutional projects, the citations become more. And document all your activities, because normally we even we don't bother to care, we don't bother to update our CVs in point of time. Some point of time you will find that our CVs having all the publications has not been updated for last few months. So you have to keep a track on that, and ensure that your research products are citable, and also keep a track of your work, that who is citing you, and if there is a high citation, so what is the reason for that citations, why some paper is not being cited, what is the lacuna of that, so that you can improve yourself later on. Now, to enhance your web presence, you can share some of your work either through LinkedIn. LinkedIn is specifically job-related sites, where if you are looking for a alternative job, or if you are looking for a change, the LinkedIn is the best site where all major CEOs or company managers, they are looking to your profile. There is called another Impacto. impactio.com. So if you have not registered yourself, go register yourself. It will automatically pull your papers available in across different platforms. If you are from social science background, there is a social science research network, and you register yourself. All these things what I am showing over here are free of cost. You can register yourself. It will create a profile. It will automatically pull all the resources available across the different platform into a single platform, which will give you a larger visibility. If some of the papers are not being automatically pulled to your account, there are provisions that where you can manually give inputs. But some of these platforms that I'm talking about may have copyright restrictions. So if you have a journal of Elsevier article, you cannot just simply put it in any of the these free platforms, because that will violate the copyright. However, you can give that preprint copy. You can put it there, or you can put the what do you call the author's copy, that is the proof copy. You can put it over there. So that is called SSRN, Social Science Research Network. If you don't have a profile, make ensure that you have a profile at Impact.io. You have a profile at SSRN. Create your ORCID profile there. Your biodata, everything, your publication can be updated, and you can get a unique identity for as a author, as a profile. There is another like ORCID ID. There is another ID called researcher ID, that is by Web of Science. So that also, there also we will create your profile, whether you have published in papers in Web of Science or not, whether you have published papers in Scopus or not. Even if you published papers in normal journals which has not been covered in either Web of Science or Scopus, still you can create your profile. You can pull your articles over there. So it will automatically then find out wherever those papers has been cited. They will and track them, they will map them, and they will show you the citation analysis of all those articles. Then as a faculty member, I think you as a university or college, you can create a IRINS profile, that is Vidwan profile, which is being created, which is being provided by InflibNet, that is UGC in InflibNet Center. If you are not having a profile, contact your university librarian, who is the normally coordinators for that. Update that profile, Vidwan profile. Automatically, if you are, even if if you are not in a university, you are in a college, you can go to UGC InflibNet site. There is you write down Vidwan project, you will find a link for you. Then you can go there, you can create your own profile where you will be linked to all other professors or other faculty members in the country. Then of course Google Scholar, you can always update your profile. There is another good thing to share your work is called BPress. BPress is also a Elsevier product. SSRN is a Elsevier product. So bigger companies, these are earlier been independent projects, but right now they have been taken over by Elsevier. BPress also, you can whatever you have documents, articles where you have copyright with you, you can always upload those articles into that. So make sure that you have an account in BPress, so that these are all mediums where you can share your research output, research work, which can be discoverable by other persons and other what do you call this websites or search engines. Then academia.edu, that is also another beautiful platform to collect. These are all part of social academic networking. Just like we have Facebook, Twitter, or WhatsApp account. These are all for social, for chit chat, and for personal light gain purpose. These are the accounts that I'm talking about. These are the accounts which are for your academic social networking. There is another called portal called ResearchGate. ResearchGate is similar to Academia Edu. So it you can host all of your research outputs over there. But subject to in all these platforms, there are subject of copyright issues. If you don't have a copyright of a particular article which has been published by Elsevier, Springer, or major international publishers, what you can do up to abstract liquidly, you can always give the link over there, so that anybody looking into those articles can directly go to the publisher site through that your link. Another best part of the thing is that Semantic Scholar. Lot of things we didn't know about these things. These are platforms. These are the tools where you can promote your activities. There is another called Academic Microsoft ID. So these are all things. So major is SSRN. You have BPress, Academia Edu, ResearchGate, Semantic Scholar, and Academic Microsoft. These are all platforms where you can showcase your research articles, and you can find out what is the impact of your research articles. That means what are the number of downloads that is being done, and what are the number of people they are citing your work, and all these things as a little bit premium versions also. If you give somewhere in Indian currency 3,000 rupees or 4,000 rupees as an annual fee, then you will come to know who are the faculty members or who are the professors who are downloading your paper. Then you know where to collaborate with them. So you can find out the potential collaborators through these platforms. Therefore, if you are not having your profile, so kindly make a profile in ORCID, kindly profile in Researcher ID. Then there is a Scopus author profile also, then Google Scholar Citations profile also. So these are the four major things where your identity will be created, and those identity, unique identity, you can use it in all other platforms or even in your papers. These are some of the other citations and tools. Of course, we have already talked about Google Scholar, Scopus, Web of Science, and Microsoft Academic. There is another for science people, those who are from science background, you can explore, that is called Dimensions. This is a wonderful platforms where you can find all your colleagues' research papers and the impact of that. This is slowly developing as a citations tools also, just like Google Scholar or Scopus. In coming years, they will become a citation tools also. Dimensions. Very wonderful. I have gone through that, and we are trying to implement Dimensions for our institution purpose. Semantic Scholar also. Semantic Scholar, both it's you can showcase your research things, and there also you will find a little level of citation and impact out also. And one of the things that interestingly I found, I also didn't know, because when I was asked to go through these things, so I was looking into what are the new things that has come up in the market. So that is lens.org. Very wonderful platform which connects both Semantic Scholar, Microsoft Academic, SSRN. There are few platforms. It pulls data from all the platforms and put it in a single platform called lens.org. org. There you can find all your articles. I was trying to create my own profile. Automatically it pulls down around 47 papers having some kind of citations or impact. So into a single platform of different from Semantic Scholar, from Microsoft Academic, and from SSRM. Then there are certain other things also are there, so you can go and explore these kind of things. This will help you out to find out your position. Also, this will give you a sense of pride that for you may not be knowing that your papers, your things are being cited by several international level organizations. I was looking into the Semantic Scholar and few of my sites. I was surprised. There was a paper called National Policy on Education. That was a paper of more than 10-year-old paper. It has been downloaded very recently after this new Education Policy 2020 has come. It has been downloaded more than 4,000 times. That was a paper that I wrote long back. I didn't thought of that. Now somebody will have an interest in looking into that paper. And there is another paper of my notice on talks about guidance and career counseling that I wrote somewhere in I think 1997 or 1998. But I found there are more than 5,000 downloads in a particular site. I think either it's Academia Edu or the research gets somewhere it has got more than 4,000 downloads. Then I had to go through that article. What is there? How? Why? No, other people, the articles which I thought of that these are some of my best articles, and it will have more downloads or citations. And I was surprised that nobody is looking into that. But there are certain articles which are being downloaded worldwide by other people. So therefore, until unless you have this, and whatever I am showing it, these are all free tools. As a faculty member, as a researcher, go explore that and try to play with the systems, because this is that's what I also learned going into that things, creating profiles, downloading somewhere, deleting the file. So this is what as a part of your daily routine activities. It has to be a part of your daily routine activity. Then these are some of the other sites which give you a little bit of citation. So I was trying to find out what are the total citations platform that is available around the globe, which gives you either in terms of download numbers or in terms of a little bit citations. So these are all other citations. The most important is Crossref, which is being accepted worldwide. So that is the most important citation tools. And also Plubin is for the research that is for science also. So this is all about citations. This is research impact and research things. If you have any specific questions or anything, you can ask me. Otherwise, we will move for the next presentation, because I'll have another presentation about open access journal, open journals where you can find out where to find articles if you don't have no particular access to a particular journal or database. Yeah. So how many more minutes I have for the next presentation, so that I will try to finish it up by that time?
15 minutes, sir.
15 minutes. Okay. Is there any question regarding that? Otherwise, I'll move to the next presentation.
Two question is there, sir.
Okay, fine.
One question from Dr. Amrita Panda to you, sir. If a journal do not have but if impact factor but have SNIP score, can we consider it as a good journal?
Can I see the no, question that is in there? No, in the what do you call it?
Checkbox.
Just let me go to the things. Too much thinking of a UGC list, paper citations, writing things like that. Should to fit this correction fit. If a journal doesn't have IF, what happened, IF score, can we consider it? Yes. SNIP also is a but tools right now being used worldwide, so you can take it. So these are the three major tools. One is JShare, that is of Web of Science. Then you have Scopus, Shimago journal, ranking things, and then you have SNIP. So you can consider for that, but you have to find out whether the journals are recognized by UGC by going through that UGC site. You have to check, because most of not all the journals has been what do you call it, care list, I think, care list. So UGC care list, you have to find out whether journals is listed in UGC care list or not. Even if the journal is having a high impact factor and it is not being listed in UGC care list, so that will not give any benefit as a researcher or the faculty member in Indian universities. It may have some kind of impact in foreign universities, but Indian universities were very traditional in that nature, who will go by UGC care list. So you have to find out whether the journal is there in UGC care list or not. That is also important thing for us to know about that. Then coming to the next, just 1 minute. Let me find out the next presentation. Just 1 minute, sir. Yeah, let me share the screen. Can it is it visible? My screen is visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So yeah. The moment we are talking about citations, journal impact factor, impact metrics. So all these days, all these things are linked to journals, because all these things are either journals or books. And most of the things in these days now, journals has become online. Number one things. And there are three types of journals are available there. One is paid journal, one is a hybrid journal, and one is open access journal. Paid journals where you subscribe the journal, then you can have access to that. There are hybrid journals are there, where you have to pay for the journals, but certain articles will be completely available open access for everybody. For everybody to suit, whether people, those who are paying for the journals or those who are not paying for the journals. So these are called hybrid journals. Then another third set of journals that is taking up momentum these days is called open access journals. So we'll be talking about open access journals. Means this is specifically India friendly. India friendly in the sense I'm talking, because we are a developing economy. Most of our educational institutions are not having those kind of budget to subscribe journals. If you talk about Elsevier journals or Elsevier journals, on an average you will find Elsevier journals are around $3,000 to $4,000 So how many colleges or universities will able to subscribe those kind of journals, 100 journals or 200 journals or 500 journals? Elsevier itself publishes more than 3,000 plus journals. Springer's publishes more than 3,000 plus journals. So how many of the institutions will able to subscribe this kind of journals? So that is not possible. So for us, open access journals are the best platform. But when we are talking about open access journals are not free journals. So somebody is paying behind for that, whether it's the researcher or the faculty member or the writer, in forms of article processing fee, or it can be a particular funding agency or donor agency, or somebody else is paying for that. So nothing is free in this world. So somebody is paying for the for the editorial process cost, the publishing cost, the hosting cost. So but this is taking momentum these days in India. The open access journal refers to free, immediate, online availability of research output, such as journals, articles, or books, or combined with the rights to use them, use these outputs fully in the digital environment. So that is called open access. If you talk about open access, open access are a scholarly literature which is available free of charge and often carries less restrictive copyright and licensing barriers. If you go through other journals, you will not find all the journals are copyrighted by a particular publisher. So if you want to download a particular article of Elsevier, you have to pay either $40 or $60 for a single article. Otherwise, you have to subscribe the journal, you have to purchase that journal. But that is not in the case of open access journal. Open access is a family of copyright licensing policies which authors and copyright owners make their own works publicly available, free of cost. This is a response towards the current crisis in the scholarly communication, because most of the universities are having fund deficit. They are not in a position to subscribe all the journals, so they are pressurizing to the publishing industry, to the funder, to the donors, to make all the scholarly communications, scholarly output available in the open access platform, so that everybody can use it. I'll skip a little bit of this because I have 15-minute time. I will come to directly some of the facts that will be important. Why this open access is important? That's the advantage of open access is there is an increase in the visibility of the articles, because your articles are being now checked everybody in the world without any barrier. So there are the chances of getting citation is more. According to a white paper, accessing the open access effect for hybrid journals, open access articles have 4 times more download. 4 times. So open access article is download 4 times more than the normal articles. Then the articles are having more than 1.6 times citations, and 2.5 times more all-metric citations, 1.9 times more news mentions, 1.2 more policy mentions. So these are the things. Open access books, if you are talking about open access books, it has got 50% more citation than normal printed books or normal books which is put under paywall. That means you have to pay a subscription for that. And open access books are having more than 7 times more downloads than the normal books which are under behind the paywall. Then there is the open access books are having more than 10 times mentions in the online platform than normal books. If you talk about this open access journals, they there is a copyright policy for that. So it's not that entirely things are copyright free. Somewhere it is there that no, you cannot may use it for commercial purpose. Somewhere you cannot replicate it. You can distribute it. You cannot replicate it, but that means you cannot create a similar kind of work, just changing the author's name. So those are the things which are restricted. But these open access journals are peer reviewed. These are journals which are having standard or quality aspect. These are indexed by the different indexing agencies, and some of these open access journals are also available in the print platforms. These are also preserved by Portico or other clocks or Portico for digital preservation purpose. What is not, if you look into the open access articles are not open source softwares, whatever you apply for the computer software. So open access journals are not open source softwares. Open access journals are open content, but not necessarily those who are not scholarly content, that will not come under this. This will apply only to the scholarly content. Then open data doesn't come under open access journals, because these days if you go to data.gov.in, you will find lot of data sheets, lot of data are available over there. But these are not open access journals. These are just simply open access data. Then open access journals are available for free access, no charge to access, but all the rights may not be free. There will be some kind of restrictions, like if you have Springer open access journals, there are all major publishers are having now open access journals. Springer and Elsevier open access journals, they are restricted for the commercial use. They are restricted for every journal got its own mandate or policy where it has been restricted for a certain time. The benefit of open access journal is for both for the researcher and also the society. For the researcher, it is beneficial because his articles are published in a journal which can be accessed by everybody. That means the download will be high. Naturally, the download, if is high, if it's culminating to the real research work, the citation will be also high. So if you go to the picture, you will find that there is more exposure for the work. Then researchers in the developing countries, like countries which are less developed, which cannot subscribe the journals, they can also see your articles, because your article is published in the open access platform. So open access journal is free for them also. Then taxpayers get value for money, just like if the government has given a project and it's a taxpayer money, and you have brought out a publication out of that project, and the article is available for the public. So that means the public taxpayers money is being utilized properly, because public the taxpayer itself is able to see the articles free of cost. Otherwise, right now, if you've got a project from Government of India or DST and you write an article in Elsevier and Springer, only those who are having subscription to those journals can see it. Otherwise, other people can see that. So then this compliance with the grant rules also, because most of the funding agencies right now those who are giving funds, so they are asking that your scholarly output should be available in the public platforms. Then public can access your findings. There is a higher citation rate. Your research can influence the policymakers also. So there are a lot of this kind of benefits are there. The other benefits of this thing is that If you are deciding that you wanted to publish it in a open access journals, what are the things that you have to keep in mind? You cannot just keep on publishing any Tom, Dick, Harry journals, because they won't have any kind of recognitions. They won't be recognized by either UGC or any of the global body. If you want to see which are the authentic open access journals, there is a platform called Directory of Open Access Journals, DOJ. DOJ is the global platform which captures all the open access journal that is published to a and they evaluate it, and they find out only the standard journals are listed in that thing. If you have a DOJ seal, means the journal has got all the criteria that a normal journal should have. There is a very rigorous peer review process in that. I happen to work in DOJ as a deputy editor for a couple of years, almost 3 to 4 years. So every week I have to review 1 or 2 journals published by different publishers or different individual or different societies around the globe. So I used to take the parameters. There are standard protocols are there are around 30 to 40 parameters under which we have to find it out whether the journal has been peer reviewed, whether there is a proper editorial board, if the editorial board is there, whether you can reach out the editors. Normally what we may do, I've seen in several cases, specifically in the predatory journals, they will write the editor in chief is somebody who is from ISC Bangalore. When I wrote a mail to the professor at ISC Bangalore that you have been the chief editor of this journal, can you please confirm? He said, I don't know about this journal. I'm nowhere involved in that. So people give some big names in the journals in their advisory board, even if the persons those who have been named are not aware of those names. So the namesake only we give. When we can reach out to them by writing mails, they say no, we are not involved in that. Then the proper peer review process. So some of the journals, they will write the peer review process. When we ask the documents of a particular article, what is the peer review process that has gone through and who has reviewed it and what is the time frame, everything, then they were not able to produce the article. So there are stringent parameters are there. Then every article published in the open access journal should have a DOI. That is the unique identification number. That's a digital identification number should be there. But all the journals that are being published in the predatory mode are not having those kind of things. Neither they are being preserved by clocks or logs or any of the such kind of agencies in the globe. So therefore, you have to find out whether the journal is listed in directory of open access journals. If it's got a DOJ seal, that means you are confirmed that this journal is being recognized worldwide. Every platform that is being recognized. Then you find out whether journal is indexed in a knowledge web of knowledge or only its directory or sociological abstract or not. Then find out, go to the website, find out the profession, the editorial board credentials, and if you have any doubt on those things, you can always try to call up over the phone or the email given over there. So then, normally if you look into the this process, open access journal publishing process, there is a site called Think, Check and Submit. So you go to this site. This is one of the beautiful sites which will tell you what are the things to be done, what are the things not to be done. As a researcher, as a faculty member, for your own curiosity also, go and check it. This is a very beautiful platform which will tell you which other things you have to check before submitting an article to a particular X or Y or the Z journals. This is a platform. You just write down in the Google search Think, Check and Submit. You will get to know this platform. Then coming to the open access journals in specifically in humanities, DOJ is covering almost all the journals. So if you go to DOJ, you will find subject wise, category wise things are over there. There are more than 12 to 15,000 journals are there. So that will cover almost all subjects. So DOJ, for whether it's arts, science, commerce, or engineering, or any subject, so DOJ is the right platform to check it out whether it is available there or not. If you are looking for articles or a particular discipline, you can go to DOJ or check it. Otherwise, if you are looking for specifically articles in humanities, there are certain links that I have provided. If required, I can circulate this PPT to all of you. Otherwise, end of this presentation, I have my email ID. You can send me a mail. I can share the links to you. So there is a site called Digital Humanities Now. NEH Office of the Digital Humanities, the Digital Public Library of America, JURN directory, which links around 3,000 arts and humanities open access journals. Then open access publishing in European network, open. So there also you will find all the journals which are being published in the European Union are available over there. This also includes certain books also. Then digital archiving, archive of art, and then art image for college teaching, that is the AICT. So these are some of the specific databases which focus on humanities. So because there are several platforms are available, but I was looking into the platforms which look into the humanities aspect only. If you look into the social science journals, so DOJ is another, that is the platform that I told you. Otherwise, SSOAR is a social science open access repository, contains both pre and post print articles from wide range of social science journals. This is being certified by German Initiative for Network Information DINI. It has both English and foreign language publications. Then SSRN, the Social Science Research Network, has materials across the different social science discipline. This is one of the largest open access repository of the world. Then if you look into open access science journals, so DOAS is another one. Then archive.org, Biomed Central, Project Euclid. Specifically, if you are looking for the mathematics related journals, Project Euclid is the best one in that sense. Biomed name shows that this is related to medicine and biomedical sciences. That is the best for that. Then PubMed is also for medical sciences. We have astrophysics data systems, ADS, that is for physics related subject. Then Scope 3 initiative, Scope 3 initiatives also morely looking into physics and physical sciences. Then you have Public Library of Science, which got a number of things. If you, these are the subject specific, science specific. If you just write in the Google search, you will find several hundreds of journals. But I'm talking only those platforms which are recognized worldwide, which is a proper peer reviewing process for selecting journals. On the all journals that has been available in the open access platforms in a particular science field are not covered in this. That they have their own mechanism of international committee for the selecting the journals. As I'm told you, DOJ got a very stringent editorial policy. For a single journal, I had to spend more than a week to decide whether this can be. This is not me. I used to decide. That is a assistant editor who will take care of the basic things. Then they will find out if there is any lacuna. It will come to the deputy editor, and I look into certain aspect. If I have some doubts, I'll get clarification from the things. Then that will be sent to the chief editor, and he will have his own mechanism to find out the things. So like DOJ got a whole process itself. So it's not that you publish a open access journal today or tomorrow send it to DOJ. They will not give the DOJ seal. They will not enlist it in their platforms. then where to find these open access journals? So the directory of open access journal, DOJ is one of the major platform. Then Wester is there. Wester is the union catalog for million of records representing the open access resources. So you can just write in the Google search Wester, you can go there, you can find it out. Then Open Door is an authoritative directory for open access repository. So open door with tell it. If you are looking for no scientific article or journals or information, base is the one of such good platform. And of course, Google Scholar is another platform. So thank you very much. Apart from that, if you even if these days, if you go to National Digital Library of India, you will find a lot many open access journals, books, documents are available in the National Digital Library of India, which is being taken up by IIT Kharagpur. So then open educational resources, this is a very vast area. I just tried to keep it because time was very less to cover up all the things. So I thought I'll just focus on open access journals. So when we are talking about open access journals, the one thing is that you have to distinguish the genuine open access journal and predatory open access journal. As a researcher, you have to find it out. Every time you write a paper, you go to UGC care list and find out whether that has been listed over them there or not. That is one of the major parameter. So thank you very much. If you have any questions or anything, any suggestions, anything, I'll be happy to share my response. Otherwise, the things I'm just telling you, ISI Calcutta, we have 10 centers across the country. One center is available in Northeast also, that is in the Tejpur. And this is the only institution in the country which is works like a public library system. So we have a walk-in user system. So somebody can come for 10 days or 15 days, they can access our library. Otherwise, you can, if you are a postgraduate degree, postgraduate degree and above, you can take our council membership, that is ISI council membership. Once you take a ISI council membership, our library membership will be free, or you will have to pay either 300 rupees in a year to get access to all the resources that we are having. But as of now, the resources that are available with us, which can be shareable, it is already available in our institutional repository, which is available in the public platform. You can go and check it. Otherwise, if you are coming sometime to Calcutta, you are most welcome to visit us. Or if you are in any of the cities like Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore, Delhi, Hyderabad, so we have our centers and libraries over there. You can go and access the resources over there. We are more flexible than any other academic institution in terms of providing library services to the users. Yeah. And if you want to know any kind of informations or any kind of this things that I have tools I have given in the presentation, you can just send me an email. I'm sending my email in the chat box, so you can send me a query. I'll be happy to share those links to all of you. Yeah, thank you very much.
No,
Yes, yes. Anybody who is a postgraduate and above can become a member of ISI Council, and that is the beauty of that. No, you can even attend our annual general body meeting. You can give a vote and selecting our chairman, board of governors, or our president, governing body. So we are a complete democratic organization in that sense. Being in Calcutta, it has been structured in that way. So anybody can become you can a part of decision making process. So because almost all our rules, regulations are taken up on a voting basis. So in the general body meeting, whosoever present there, the 2/3 majority has to be there to pass any kind of bill or any kind of things. So no, you can do. So you can always take a membership of ISI. How to become? So if you go to our library website, so you will find how to become the member of ISI Council. There is a link is on there. Otherwise, you can send me a mail. I can provide you. PPTs, of course, I can provide you. Just send me a mail. I have given you the email IDs. You send us a mail. I can share it with you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Sure.
We are delighted with your such a presentation. Hope our participants will communicate with you regarding their doubts, and we are to continue to engage with you for developing our college journals, and our colleagues are interested to write in international journals also. Thank you very much, sir, for your brilliant presentation. Our organizing committee will keep touch with you in future. Thank you very much, sir, for your participation.
Thank you. Thank you. There is one question over there. I'll take it before I leave. Now there are some good journals that can take months to together. This entire review process depends upon the journal to journal, so that you cannot avoid these kind of things. If you are looking for a good high impact factor journal, it will take its own course of time, and sometime no good. If it's no good journal, they normally say the reason for the rejection also, because in the review process you will get the fair idea of why or how it has been rejected. But some of the journals they don't tell. But this is a part of our job, so you cannot avoid that. But always keep trying for the good journals, and normally one or two attempts then things get approved. So that is one of the thing. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Have a nice
Thank you.
night and healthy life.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving this opportunity to me. Let me tell you very frankly, for last couple of days, yesterday we had the final meeting for whether we should take part in the this what do you call, just you have not kind of things. We have a process that is going, a review process is going on for ISI. So it's after 10 years the government has set up an committee to review the entire activities of the ISI. That is one part. Then second part is not whether we will participate in Prime Minister's that research and innovations ranking. So I am coordinator for both the things. So I've been for last few months. It's a sleepless night for me, because lot of data needs to be accumulated and put together. So I was not sure whether I will able to give justice or not, because our last presentation was yesterday. Around 4 hours we had a meeting. So after that I was completely exhausted. Anyway, thank you very much for giving this opportunity. It is always good, because there are some of the tools that I was talking about. I'm sure that because I was also been sitting in ISI every day. When I go to the site, I find out, do some kind of research. I come up with a new tools. This the dimensions and lens .org, lens.org, I could know only 3 days, 4 days before. And when I went to the site, it was a wonderful site. So everybody, whether you have papers, whether you have large number of paper or small number of paper, that is not an issue. But your presence, social presence in the academic world should be there. So any of the participants, they should find out what are these platforms, and they should try to register themselves in all those platforms to get a visibility that by the other peer groups. So that is important. So thank you very much for giving this opportunity to share my views. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. So I'm leaving. Right.
Yes, sir.
Professor Udayvanu Sinha sir, I think he's joined our virtual platform.
Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Can you
Good evening, sir.
well?
Sir, first of all, we introduce to our participant. We welcome you, Professor Udayvanu Sinha, Department of Economics, Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi. Professor Udayvanu Sinha is a professor of economics at Delhi School of Economics. He studied Bachelor of Science with Economics honors from Ramakrishna Mission Residential College, Narendrapur, under University of Calcutta, and completed his Master and PhD in Economics from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. After his PhD, he has been the Sri Ratan Tata Trust Fellow at the Institute of Economic Growth 2000 to 2001, and a postdoctoral fellow at the National University of Singapore 2001 to 2002. Before joining the Delhi School of Economics, he has worked as an assistant professor for the 3 years at the Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata 2002 to 2005. His teaching and research areas include game theory, industrial organization, innovation, and competition. Professor Sinha has worked extensively in the area of innovation, intellectual property rights, technology transfer, and competition. He has published in some highly reputed international journals such as Economica, International Journal of Industrial Organization, Journal of Economics Behavior and Organization, Review of International Economics, Journal of Development Economics, Oxford Economic Paper, Economics Letters, International Review of Economics and Finance, etc. Professor Sinha has been associated with some professional journals as editorial board member, and currently he is the editor-in-chief of the Indian Economic Review, published by Springer Nature. For more details about his research, he has mentioned his website. Professor Sinha has been conferred the Export-Import Bank of India International Economic Research Annual Award, IERA, in 2000 for his PhD dissertation. Professor Sinha has received the prestigious Mahalanobis Memorial Medal National Award in 2012 for his outstanding contribution to the field of quantitative economics. We are very much fortunate that our guest Professor Udayvanu Sinha with us. I now just request sir to join the virtual platform, and the platform is yours. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Dev, and special thanks to the organizer for reaching out to me for this particular lecture. And I am also thankful to Dr. Shadpathi for taking up the first session, although I was scheduled. And this was basically because of some misunderstanding between me and Dr. Nondi. So I was under the impression that my presentation would be 18. Can you hear me properly?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So this was due to some misunderstanding that I thought that my presentation was tomorrow. So I was just preparing the content, and then I thought of preparing some PPT, but all of a sudden I got a phone call that your presentation is scheduled now. So you have to bear with me that I have some rough draft in terms of some of the issues that I want to highlight in this lecture. And so the slides that I am going through is not of much help. It is basically a draft note for me to concentrate on different issues as I go along. Okay, so let me at the outset tell, because my topic is tips for writing the journal articles to get published in Scopus Web of Science UGC care list journals. So let me at the outset point out that publication is indeed very difficult. Okay, and all of us, those who have ever published in any professional journal, know that there are few rounds of rejections that you have to face. Okay, and if you are lucky enough that your first research paper is accepted by any journal which is standard, so then you should be actually immensely thankful to God that your first paper is accepted for publication. But in most occasions this doesn't happen, and we learn over time with the reviewers' report on variety of our papers, the shortcomings of the papers and the drawbacks, and how to improve those papers. So we get suggestions from the reviewer, even if the paper is rejected. And that's the context in which the researchers develop, improve, and then gradually disseminate the research paper that they focus on. Okay, so let me begin with another story, and this is George Akerlof's story. So I know that this particular, through this virtual platform, I'm reaching out to all researchers from different streams, not necessarily economics, maybe English, library science, and variety of other science field. So this story is very familiar with the economics researchers, but this may sound not so familiar with other people. So let me just elaborate the story. So George Akerlof was a PhD from MIT, and he got Nobel Prize in economics along with two others, Joseph Stiglitz and Michael Spence, regarding the contribution on asymmetric information, which has become a backbone of many of the economics thinking and research post these articles that were published in 70s. Okay, so the main purpose of this particular year's Nobel Prize was to acknowledge the contribution in the field of asymmetric information, which has changed the way the economists were used to think about economic problems. Now, this is common sense economics, that economics is always about resource allocation, and the research in economics is always about how to improve those research allocation so that the most efficient way the resources are allocated to the benefit of the human society. Okay, so in that context, the dominant paradigm that was there at the time when these particular authors they wrote their papers was that competitive general equilibrium with complete information. So the idea was that if you allow the all the resources, and as a result you do not need to bother much about the different aspects of those allocations, because the market mechanism is so powerful that both from the competition from the demand side as well as from the supply side will ensure that the people who value the goods most, they get the goods, and the people who are able to produce most efficiently will be producing in the market. So the market mechanism will be sufficient to allocate goods to the proper use, and demand and supply story will take care of that issue. But this particular dominant paradigm, which was mainly based on competitive market mechanism, was a paradigm which was mostly touted in developed countries where markets are mostly developed, and as a result, it was easy that the market works and that see the benefit of those market mechanisms. Okay, but one important drawbacks of that particular general equilibrium competitive market resource allocation was that they assume that there is complete information about all the parameters and variables about which decision makers makes decision. Okay, so the consumers, suppliers, anybody in the society, whatever decision they make the decisions based on the complete information. So everybody knows everything. Now that's a very strong assumption. Now this particular year's Nobel Prize in 2001 was to acknowledge that in many situations you may not be able to get that where every agent, every economic agent would be knowing everything. Now, being in a country like India, it is even more powerful to think that we have diversity in education. And so as a result, many of the decisions are different. The different people takes depending on their educations and ability is maybe completely different. And as a result, that market mechanism in terms of resource allocation cannot be trusted for all the social welfare maximization. So you need some kind of intervention and regulation in that context. So this particular year, they acknowledge that asymmetric information might be a hindrance for efficient allocation of resources. So this was a market deviation from a dominant paradigm of competitive market, okay? And this particular phenomenon that Akerlof has highlighted in his thesis was known as adverse selection problem. And the idea is very simple and it's very easy for anybody to understand irrespective of the background in any field of study. So you do not need to be an economist to understand it. So think of a problem that a used car market faces. Now, what is the used car market? Now, many of us, we know that at our first car, we try to buy a car which is already old car. Now, the advantage of old car is that you being the first driver, you know that you will be meeting with some kind of small and minor accidents here and there. So as a result, your car will be damaged to some extent. So it's better to buy the old car rather than the new car. But the problem with the old car market is, as Akerlof has highlighted, that in the automobile industry, now old car, the supplier of the old car, they know the exact details of those cars in terms of the quality that the car has. On the other hand, you being a purchaser, when you go to the old car market, just from the look of it, you would not be able to ascertain the quality of the engine or different other parts of the automobile, which might have faced accidents maybe 5 years back or 10 years back. Different components might have been distorted over time. So the value of that particular old car that you are planning to buy, you would not know for sure. Okay. Now, what happens in such a situation? In such a situation, seller knows exactly how much should be the value of that particular product. The buyer does not know. But when the buyer doesn't know about that product, they can have some expectation about the value of the product. Now they try to offer that value to the seller. Now the paradox emerges. Now, if the price that you offer as a consumer or the buyer of that car, if it is higher than the seller's expectations, based on the quality of the car that the seller only knows about the quality of the car. So seller has private information about the car. So if the seller is willing to sell the car, that immediately implies that the value of the car in the mind of the seller is lower than what is being offered.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir?
Yes. Am I getting any question right now?
Sir? Sir,
Sir, continue, sir.
Continue, sir.
Sorry.
are we in the right meeting? ये आपका रिसर्च पब्लिकेशन पे ही है सर. I believe ये आप सुना सर. Am I in the right meeting?
Yeah.
Should I continue?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then if the seller is willing to sell the imply that seller values the car lower than the buyer. The buyer, being a smart guy, would know that the quality of the car is lower than what he is offering to buy. Okay. In such a context, the immediate implication of that the market mechanism would fall flat and there will be no transaction in that market. whatever price the buyer is willing to give for a particular, if the seller is willing, that would immediately imply that seller values the car lower than the buyer. So which would mean that the quality of the car is not as per the buyer's expectation. So buyer should revise its own belief and offer low price. And if it does so, then essentially that would mean that there will be no transaction in the market. Okay. So this was his fundamental contribution in the PhD thesis. This is one of the chapters along with other chapters. Okay. So this tells that the market mechanism might fail when you have asymmetric information, especially the adverse selection problem. Now, this is not only a problem that is there in the car market. This is there also when you take loans. Okay. So as from the bank. So the bank doesn't know the true ability of repayment of the particular customer for whom they are sanctioning the loan. Similarly, in the insurance market, also this problem arises because when a party goes for buying an insurance package, then the insurance company doesn't know whether this particular party is more risky than the others. So whether the insurance company should cover that particular person in terms of the insurance that it is planning to cover. Okay, so this was a very fundamental breakthrough in the area of economics, sitting at a time when the competitive equilibrium was at the hem of affairs in terms of the research area. So now look at the outcome of this particular research that was very fundamental, which has changed the way the economists thought the economics would be run and function. So in that case, look at the problem this particular person faces who got a Nobel Prize in 2001. Okay, so this person faced rejection. This person faced rejection from okay. The first one is American Economic Review, and the second one is Review of Economic Studies. These are the top part of the top 5 journals in economics, and still they are holding their rank in the profession. Okay. And economics, I don't know about the other field, but economics has a very well-defined ranking in the journals. So different agencies, they do the journal ranking, and both AER and ISTAT, they belong to in most of the rankings in the top 5. Then the third one was Journal of Political Economy. Now, both AER and ISTAT, they didn't give any referee report. It was simply rejection by the editor that was sent to George Akerlof. Okay, obviously any rejection is bad for any author, so that is heartbreaking. The third was to the Journal of Political Economy. It gave 2 reports. And they argued that if so have I lost the connection?
Sir, some disturbances were there. You continue, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So then the third journal that gave the reports. Okay, the first 2 journals didn't give the report. So the third journal gave the report, and the referees, they said that if the paper was correct, the economics would be different. And after these 3 rejections, he didn't give up. And finally he was lucky that their paper was accepted in Quarterly Journal of Economics, which is a journal from Harvard University, and that was published in 1970. Okay, so many of you might be wondering what is the context, why I'm talking about that. So this is the publication history of a Nobel-winning paper. Now, if you come from any field of sciences or any other disciplines, you should be knowing this kind of stories, how this publication history for different people have panned out in their life. Okay, so finally for 4th time he was lucky to get that paper accepted, and this particular paper won him a Nobel Prize in 2001. Okay, so this is the punchline of the story that I tried to elaborate here. Now, Akerloff's original intention was to show that information advantage of the seller would drive the buyers towards the new car market. So his initial plan in the research was to show that because this will lead to that more new cars will be bought, and that would have effect business cycle. Now, business cycle is another thing that we are facing right now, irrespective of the background that we come from. Currently, under the current pandemic, you can see that the most of the economic indicators are very low. So we are at the bottom of many of the economic activity. And so in that context, and this happens historically in all the human society, the economic business cycles, they happen. And the main purpose of doing economics is to improve the economic outcomes so that more people are employed and get better life and the better society altogether. Okay, so with this, let me just now move on to the more relevant maybe for many of you is UGC care and some related thing. Now, if you are thinking that I will be giving you a very straightforward answer to the topic that has been assigned to you, then I am sure that you will be disappointed, because the story that I elaborated clearly tells you that a PhD from MIT has tough time publishing his thesis paper. Okay, so that should alert you that it is not easy to publish, and even if that particular paper might have a potential to win you a Nobel Prize. So now I'll be taking up the two usual things that are relevant for most of us is UGC care. Now UGC care, if you go to the UGC portal, you will know that they have two different lists, and these lists are as per the UGC's own declaration and notification. These lists are dynamic in nature. So that would mean that this list will be changing from time to time. So today, if you publish in a particular journal, so that may not be in the list tomorrow. So that's the potential risk that all of the researchers are taking. So in this context, my advice is try to target the better journals which are better ranked by the international agencies, because the chance of they being left out in the UGC care list is very low. Okay, so it is better that you try to always target better quality journals so that your research remains counted throughout your life for any kind of promotions or other relevant issues. Now, this is particular document is now online from the UGC. This is called Good Academic Research Practices. Okay, so they shortly call it GARP. So this has been online from September onwards, I think, and they have now clearly elaborated the way of doing good research and how to proceed about doing research. And of course, towards the end, some publications and some of the reasons why the research papers get rejected by different journals. So the reasons for all those rejections. So I will touch upon this issue in a brief. And I hope that this particular document, if you read, this is available on the net. This will be extremely helpful. And this is a very recent document coming from UGC directly, and which is mostly relevant for most of us in Indian institutions for our academic job as well as promotions and all that. Okay. So the framework of GARP focuses on 3 stages of research life cycle. Now, research design, conduct of research, and research dissemination. So these are the 3 stages of research that has been highlighted by this particular document. Now, research design starts from planning about the research. Now, when you plan for a research, the choice of right research questions and the rationale for doing that research is extremely important, because anywhere that you send your particular paper for publication, first they look at that whether you are addressing the right questions and whether there is a rationale for doing so. So there can be thousands of questions that are there, but there may not be enough rationality for all the questions. So you need to provide not only the right questions, but the rationality of pursuing that right questions towards it finding in this context. Now, does the project potentially have positive outcomes for society, industry, country, or the ecosystem in general? So that's the main questions that are there when you choose a research question. And in this context, the two important frameworks that are laid out and also being highlighted by this particular document is the impacting research, innovation, and technology. This is shortly named as IMPRINT, and this is by Ministry of Human Resource Development. And so they have also listed major sciences and engineering challenges that may be addressed by researchers. Similarly, we also have United Nations Sustainability Development Goals, and these particular goals are also being pushed vigorously by even the journals. So the journal publishers like Elsevier and Springer, they are also asking us that you, as a particular journal or editorial board, should follow these sustainability development goals of the United Nations when you decide about the specific focus of the research areas that you want to publish in your journals, so that a better society emerges from there. So these are some of the highlighted points, what is meant by raising the right kind of questions in a particular research project. Describe the research objectives and rationales is of paramount importance. Develop a project plan with milestones, roles, and responsibilities. Now, this is very important because research is a continuous process and it doesn't have an easy solution within a specific time frame. However, many of the research might have important milestones to reach, and if you are able to forecast those milestones at the beginning, then it is helpful for you to assess whether the research is going in the right direction in terms of reaching the final objective that is already laid down in your research plan. Okay, so in this current context, you can think of that the development of COVID-19 vaccine is of paramount importance, and most of the countries, most of the research institutions are trying that. And in that context, many of those research may not find the final light of the day, but however, there will be plenty of efforts that will be given to develop the vaccines, and only few will be successful. So this is another important aspect of any research, that research essentially and inherently uncertain in nature. Outcomes cannot be predicted. However, some of the milestones can be of some value because you not necessarily reach the final milestone in your own research, but even the intermediate research that you are able to achieve that particular milestone might be helpful to a subsequent generation of researchers, and as a result, the path of research will remain. Now, you have to, when we all work in under constraint. Now, these constraints are also highlighted that you have to look at the expertise available with you when you are planning for the research, and then the facilities that are available and the funding sources. Because without adequate funding, some of the experimental research, whether it is in pure sciences or sciences, require a lot of funding, because the surveys have to be conducted for sciences. If their experimental laboratory resources are needed, so you need whole lot of the funding for getting those things done in laboratory. Now, this is another aspect, that keep abreast with the relevant regulatory, ethical, organizational, and other guidelines. Now, this issue is also very important, and I will highlight some of them later. Now, when you are doing research, you are starting from somewhere, and when you are starting from somewhere, you are using the knowledge of some of the previous researchers. In that context, you need some of the licenses to use those research for the incremental research that you are planning to do in that line of research. So the relevant licenses to be obtained, and these processes should be clear in your initial planning stage of the research that you are doing. Now, these are some of the important aspects of the good research question. It should be very clear with sufficient specificity so that it is readily understood by anybody, may not be from your own profession. Okay, so it should be away from other fields as well. So they should be clearly understood. So any problem, whichever field that you are working on, it should be accessible by a general audience of that field. Okay, not necessarily a highly specialist in that particular field. Focused to ensure feasibility given the available resources and time frame. The research should be focused. It should not be spread all around the topic so that you may not have necessary resources to actually complete those all the aspects of any particular research. It should be concise, brief, but comprehensive, nuanced, with a research design that matches the complexity of the problem being addressed, and logical to ensure that the available evidence supports the research claims. Okay, otherwise the basic part in pure sciences or mathematical sciences, we call it the proof, logical proof has to be given, but in other subjects, the arguments that you are making should be logically connected so that your research outcome that you are presenting and the rationalization that you are presenting to reach that particular outcome should be logically connected so that anybody who is conversant in that field should be able to understand the logical flow of that particular research. Now, this literature review is extremely important, and this actually serves dual purpose. And this is essentially allows you to describe the relevant antecedents before you are placing your research as a sequel to that particular antecedent. Okay, so this purpose is served by the relevant literature review. So I know what are the gaps and holes in the existing literature for which this particular research is being undertaken and the paper is being written. So that gaps and holes, identification of that would essentially require a very good quality literature review so that you identify those gaps and holes within the existing knowledge base. Okay, and that immediately attracts the reader's mind that whether I should be reading this paper or not, whether it has adequately identified the gaps and holes of the research, so that I'm interested to know that this particular the particular milestone that is being created by putting this paper into this sequence of literature, so whether I'm interested or not. Similarly, it provides an assessment of that work by pointing to the strengths and weaknesses of the preceding literature as perceived by the researchers writing the review. So the strengths and weaknesses of existing literature has to be also clearly stated so that any reader can understand the strength that you are coming with in your own research and placing your research in the context of the literature. So in many situations as journal editor, I have seen that this literature review is very badly done, in a sense that some people feel that literature review means it's a description of the existing literature. No, not at all. For the description of the existing literature, any researcher will go and read those particular papers or the literature. What you need to do is to connect it well with your research so that it is in terms of the gaps and holes that exist in the existing literature, and that has to be identified and clearly stated. Now, these gaps and holes also allows you to establish the novelty of the research that you are proposing and writing about. So this novelty, which is an integral part of any research discovery, is, and which also allows in other kind of applied sciences in terms of the valuable intellectual property rights. So that particular novelty has to be established. Otherwise, people would not be interested in your research at all. Now, the next point of order is research methodology. It should be appropriate and rigorous. Now, when I say it is appropriate and rigorous, that depends on the context. There is no hard and fast rule about the appropriateness of a research methodology or the rigor of a research methodology. For example, the story that I have talked about, the competitive general equilibrium model in economics that was prevalent in 50s and 60s. The appropriate methodology was general equilibrium, full of mathematics and a very well-defined mathematical model. Okay, so that was the appropriate methodology pursued by the researchers of those days researchers. Okay, so that appropriateness was not there with respect to what the paper that I have talked about, the George Akerlof's advanced selection paper. So this was not in that sense very appropriate. This was not in the flow of current theme in that particular stream of research that was happening. So your paper can be path-breaking, which may not be actually borrowing from the existing research methodology, but that should be rigorous enough so that the readers are convinced about your appropriateness as well as rigor in pursuing that particular question and towards its logical conclusion. Okay, so this particular aspect is immensely important. And as I'm telling you that any path-breaking or fundamental research typically deviate from this aspect by a large margin, and that brings them, if that particular research becomes valuable in the future, then this methodological aberration or deviation from the existing methodology becomes a standard in the future days. And those are the really path-breaking work. But for most of us, that may not be very relevant. But in that context, what my suggestion is that if you are writing a theoretical paper, mathematical model-based paper in applied physics or any other field or in economics, then you should try to follow the existing methodology that are standard in that field. Otherwise, it is difficult for you to find a journal where it is published. And as I told you, George Akerlof has first 3 failures for his Nobel-winning paper, okay, because the methodological aberration was there. Sorry. Now, so these are another aspects that when we write paper and do culminate the research in terms of a paper, so in many situations, these research are subject to plagiarism, falsification, fabrication, and misrepresentation. Now, this is clearly pointing towards the honesty and integrity of the researcher. Now, research misconduct is defined as fabrication, falsification, or plagiarism in proposing, performing, or reviewing research, or in reporting research results, okay? And if you go about the definitions of those, so fabrication is a situation where the people make up data or results, okay? So that is not clearly borne out by the available data, but they try to fabricate those data to come to a conclusion, and that's wrong, plain wrong. In a sense, this is a dishonest behavior, obviously not at all ethical, and it violates all ethical standard in terms of honesty and integrity of the researcher. Falsification, manipulating research materials, equipment, or processes, or changing or omitting data or results such that the research is not accurately represented in the research record, okay? So I will also touch upon that when you do dissemination, this particular falsification aspect is important, because if you do something innovative, then other researchers, when they read or they replicate your experiment, they should be able to replicate it in toto. Now, if you do not use the right kind of thing, then the chances that that cannot be verified. So these are subject to falsification, and many manipulation are done by researchers in order to publish in the journals, even if that cannot be properly verified in certain contexts. Plagiarism, it is rampant. Now, right now, plagiarism, there are plenty of softwares that are available. You can get them checked. Most of the journals use plagiarism check softwares, okay? And when I get something on my dashboard in the as the editor of Indian Economic Review, I also get a result about the percentage of plagiarism, okay? So that immediately attracts my mind, and if the percentages are beyond something, and I also look at what are the components in which this particular research is plagiarized, whether it is in the body or in the experimental method or whatever. So I will be able to ascertain whether I would at all be interested to proceed with that particular paper in terms of assigning that to other editors or reviewer. So this particular test is the first test in the context of your publication when you submit it to a journal. Now, all of us know, especially in the applied sciences, where that research in computer science, engineering, and life sciences, among other fields, often yields intellectual property of significant commercial value. So you get patent, trademark, copyrights, and other forms of guarantees, okay, which you can transfer it to other people who can commercially exploit those particular rights that are granted to you. So this intellectual property is a valuable property rights that are established when the research is done. And this is not so important in many of the social sciences, but it is absolutely important in computer science, engineering, and life sciences. Okay, so you can understand that not only the novelty that is important, but if your research is very foresighted, it has great commercial value. Okay. Now I'm coming to the another aspect of it, the dissemination. Now, whatever you do, the final objective is that this particular research should be disseminated to the broader audience. Now, broader audience for a variety of other reasons. Okay, so inform the larger community of the findings of the research activity that you have undertaken. And Dr. Shadpathy has told you the variety of ways you can actually disseminate research and have your own profile and see that whether your research is creating buzz in the academic fraternity or not. Okay, so the dissemination, like that, I will also come to the right kind of journal that you choose, but dissemination is extremely important for another thing that I was talking about, the related matters, that other scientists should be able to replicate, test, and challenge and confirm. So any research, unless it is tested repeatedly and confirmed by other academic fraternity, especially in the experimental sciences, those research would not be taken very seriously. Okay, even if you are lucky to publish, but it does not have enough potential in terms of replicating, testing, and challenging and confirming and to build upon for further research, those will not be able to get much of the impact from the academic fraternity. Okay, so this dissemination is extremely important, keeping in view that this is finally used for practitioners. So maybe you are doing research in life sciences, but would be used by the medical professionals, okay, or pharmaceutical companies who may not have developed that idea, but would like to create a medicine along that line that the research, your research has suggested. Similarly, policy and decision makers and the general public in general. So this is very important that dissemination happens rightly so that it falls and it reaches to the relevant community who could be the potential stakeholder of the benefit of your research. Now, regarding predatory journals and all, you have already learned many of the lectures. Okay. Now, the question is choosing the right journal for publication. Now, this particular aspect, if I just take you through what already the UGC has already made in terms of different points. Now, when you select a particular journal, it is not necessary that the selection is going to get you immediate publication, but it is important that whether the editor would be willing to look at, that is the first stage of your screening, that whether the editor is interested in your paper in the first place. If the editor is interested, then it would like to assign it to another editor who will be the handling editor, and then finally it will reach the reviewer. Okay, so these are more or less the standard structure that is followed in most of the international journals published by Springer and Elsevier. Okay, so how to actually choose a journal? First, look at the aims and scope of the journals and match that of your research. Now, aims and scope of the journals are always there in all journals. So you first look at that whether your research is matching with that journal. Otherwise, just because it is free of cost or it is easy to publish and you can send the papers to that particular journal, it is not going to fetch you any dividend regarding publication. Has the journal published articles of similar nature? This is extremely important. And let me tell you, even Elsevier and Springers, they now actively encourage the researchers to cite the papers that are already published in those journals. Now, why do they do so? This helps the editorial office also in assigning the paper to the right set of reviewers, because otherwise you try to publish something and where that particular journal has never published anything in that spirit. So in that case, the editor will have tough time finding a right kind of the reviewer for your paper. And that also is a difficulty because these are operational difficulty, and that also determines how much time your paper will be facing in terms of the acceptability. If you are lucky to get a quick reviewer's report, then that is helpful. Even if the paper is rejected, getting a right kind of review is important, and that is possible provided that that particular journal has already published in the similar areas. Now, also the journals are evolving entities. So they also over time changes their focus, okay? Depending on which particular area in that particular aims and focus will be more important and relevant for the society. So that's a call the editorial board, along with the editorial advisory board, decides. You do not have, as an author, do not have control over it. But so it is not necessary that many of the articles are published in my line, so I have done some incremental research and give it to that journal, and that journal will, with high probability, will publish. That's not the case. What is the journal peer review process? Now, typically, any good journal, any standard international journal will follow double-blind referee, so the reviewer will not be knowing the exact identity of the authors. But in today's world, this particular thing is also being bypassed by the reviewer. If they want, they can easily give a Google search and may be able to access your working paper version, okay? So although there is blind peer review, most of the journals, they practice, but in effect, it is not at all blind, because about 80% of the papers before it reaches the editor's desk are actually available online in some working paper series or somewhere in conference, the website or somewhere. So as a result, this blind reviewing process is nowadays is not happening that much because of this additional information available. So if you ask me, when there was no Google, no internet, it was impossible for a reviewer to actually get hold of your original paper. Somewhere it is in a hard copy, some working paper in some university library, so it is not possible. So that time it was like clearly blind peer review, but nowadays it is no longer that way blind. So they will get to know about the author's identity, affiliation, and the country of origin and everything. Now, also this is important that you are trying to publish in a journal, but does the journal reach the relevant audience? Now, this is very important because your purpose, as Dr. Shadpathi has mentioned, that your purpose is to reach out to the broader academic fraternity where you know that your research will be read and then further improved upon. So if it is in the wrong journal where the intended audience of the journals is very different from the intended audience that you are targeting, then there is no point publishing in that kind of journals, because there is a chance that your paper will not be read by many people. So as a result, the very purpose of research and dissemination would not be fruitful. Okay, and let me give you a very simple example in that context. So our Indian Economic Review has now come out with, mostly right now it is online, but we are just wrapping up the hard copy also. There is a COVID-19 special issue. Now, when this COVID-19 special issue was being compiled, so then we approached some of the big shot economists who already have some papers already floating in the internet. So when we did that, we realized that some of the great names are also involved with that COVID-19 research, they can easily publish those papers in top international journals, okay? But when we approach them, many of them agreed with to publish in Indian Economy Review, just because of the simple reason that this particular special issue is being compiled, keeping India in focus, and they understood that their paper will reach the intended audience, and that is the Indian audience, okay? Mostly because they have looked at the hardship of the migrant labor, the way the government has handled the COVID-19 pandemic, and the way the Kerala government has handled the pandemic, how our health sector is equipped in terms of handling the crisis of COVID-19. So all these papers, they could have easily gone to some of the well-known journal, top-ranked journal, but many of them, the authors immediately agreed to give it to us. And in that context, I can simply draw your attention to one paper by Professor Subramanian and Professor Devraj Rai. And that paper, which has created a lot of buzz because it was available, it has actually done a survey of all the research that has taken place in terms of the human hardship that COVID-19 has created in Indian context. So that paper was withdrawn from a very reputed journal. I'm not supposed to tell you the name of the journal. That was the authors withdrew that paper just to give it to Indian Economic Review, and we were actually elated and excited to get that paper. And that paper is now available online in the Springer Indian Economic Review website. You can see that. Okay. So with this, now I am also coming to, these are all highlighted by that particular document that the UGC has. So that what are the common factors for rejecting the manuscript in journals. So manuscript content does not conform to the scope of the journal or the overarching theme of a special issue, or is not interesting to the target audience. This is the primary reason for most of the papers being rejected at the desk of the editor, okay? And that saves time for the researchers sometimes, because if your paper is in a field which this particular journal knows it for sure that does not reach to that targeted audience, so they would not be interested to publish it. They will rather reject it, but rejection is not bad. And as I told you, that all of us who have ever tried to publish will always face rejection, and that's the norm. So then that's the reason why many of the papers are rejected, because the correct suitable journal is not identified by the researcher. Manuscript style does not conform with the journal style, format, or guidelines. Now this style, manuscript style, is in a broad sense that suppose a particular journal is actually focused on experimental research, and you give some theoretical research to that particular journal. So obviously the theoretical research may not be of interest to the journal. So it is not about the quality of the findings that on which the paper is rejected. It is simply that the experimental nature of the style of that particular journal and the guidelines that they follow is not in conformity with the research that you have done. Okay, but on the trivial ground also, sometimes many of the journals has their own style and the writing may not match. So there can be very kind of light and minor reasons for rejecting those papers, because it does not conform to these three aspects of the journal. Now, duplication or significant overlap with existing work, plagiarism. So this is a very serious issue. As I told you, that most of the journals will have now already embedded plagiarism check software. And we do get to see in the editorial board that the degree or the percentage of plagiarism that is taking place. Now, this is a non-starter. If I see that the plagiarism is there, even if your paper is fundamentally very nice and it is because of your bad quality writing or not able to differentiate your paper from the other existing literature, which has given a very large percentage of plagiarism, I am sorry, I have to reject the paper on that ground because the software has alerted me. So even if I go in the depth of the paper, then there might be very important and significant the finding, but it would not be possible for me to proceed given that high percentage of plagiarism that is already flagged by the system. Now, some of the results may not be significant enough. So these are some of the subjective as well as some of the journal's own call in terms of what they call insignificant research or incremental research, and for which they may not be interested in. So that could be one reason for rejection. Improper rationale of the study. So this is at the beginning of the planning, the writing the right research question, and the rationality of that particular study is very important. So if it is not properly elaborated, that's a problem that many of the papers get rejected on those grounds. Superficial treatment of the subject matter. Here the rigor and the methodology comes into play. So the proper methodology and the rigorous treatment has to be there in order to attract the reader's mind that you have followed all the right kind of tools and techniques to establish your finding, so that people feel that, okay, this is based on the proper tools and technique. So this is already very robust result. So otherwise they will not be interested and they will reject. Poorly designed study, statistical test control. Now there are other people with strong statistics background. They know that any survey that you conduct or any empirical work that you do where the statistics are statistical notions are involved, it's a highly valuable science nowadays for all sorts of studies. So their proper methodology has to be adopted. Otherwise, it will give rise to very different results. And so the design of the study in terms of the proper statistical the test methods and all are to be done. So that is very important. Preliminary result that lends to speculative interpretation. So this is another way. Sometimes in a hurry to publish, we do try to send our paper when the paper is not already worked out in all possible dimensions and facets. So that kind of premature study, they get easily rejected because it's not that the area or the path that is taken is wrong or bad, but because it is not yet mature enough in terms of the findings to be published. So you should work more and do tighten your presentations and do far more study and make it more robust. So somewhat preliminary studies are subject to rejection most often. And the last one is lack of clarity in writing. Now this is essentially crucial, but from most of the other sciences and including economics, we are not trained in linguistics or proper English. So as a result, all of us face this problem. So we need to be very, very cautious and careful. And if the need arises, that we should take the help of proper English editor, because most of our publications, except the vernacular language, the literature things, most of the publications are in English. So we need professional editors maybe to help us in writing at the final stage in terms of a good quality presentation and the clarity of languages. So this is extremely important. So these are some of the important issues. How much time do I have?
Can you continue? No problem.
Okay. So in terms of the what is valuable research and what kind of research we should do, now do we have a cookbook regarding that? Now, frankly, there is no cookbook. Now, most of the research in the world, if you go back to the innovation history, and you'll see that that is basically the ingenuity of the minds and the inquisitiveness of the minds of the brilliant people which have given us the most of all the technology that we use. Today, we are on a virtual platform, and I can tell you that when I was a PhD student, I had to line up for my email towards the end of 1990s in JNU. Despite it being very well-funded central university, I had to be in a queue to check my email And for that, I have to book a slot in our computer lab so that for a certain period, I will be using my email, okay? So I had to queue up for that. So from that day, which was towards the end of 90s, and today we are all from our home and participating in a virtual platform, and maybe from all across India, the participants are there. So this is really a major breakthrough. Now, all these breakthroughs and the adoption of technology has taken place because of some of the brilliant minds that have gone into the research and innovation in the technology field, and that has, especially in the information and communication technology, that the basic research in those contexts were done in the 80s and partly in 90s, but the fundamental was from 70s, 80s, okay? And the research were done, and based on that, these kind of the improvement has taken place in terms of information and communications today that we enjoy from our own home, okay? So, but as I told you that these are all from the brilliant minds. Now, when they actually do the research, they do not know whether they will be absolutely relevant or helpful for the real world problems. Now, if you look at the information and telecommunication technology, these were the developments of the past to aid or to help the military. And this was mainly done in the military laboratories and establishment in terms of coding and decoding, in terms of messages and sending those messages across between different military departments across the globe, okay? And we had seen those words and those signals and messages were also there. And if you are aware of that Beautiful Mind movie, you know that those codes and decoding was a major science in those days, okay, where John Nash was also partly involved. So some of you who have not who have seen that movie will know that that context was also there. So most of the research, when they are actually basic research, when they are actually taking place, they may not know the final utilization of those research, and they would not know in which direction this particular knowledge or the discovery will be used, okay? But it should be always used for the benefit of the human civilization and human society. But in fact, some of the ethical stand were also taken by some of the very well-known scientists, including Einstein and fellow nuclear scientists. They urged that atomic energy be used only for peaceful purposes. And all of us know from the war history that it was misused. And it is a very sad thing that despite that kind of moral stand taken by the original innovator, and the science and the discovery were misused for destruction rather than construction in the human civilization, okay? So when the basic research is done, it may not be directly related to the fundamentals the way people live at that time, the changes, and that may not come into the beneficial aspect of the human society then, but in future it might be used and it will be useful, okay? So in my view, both kinds of research, whether something very particularly relevant at the moment, so studying why there is income inequality in different states or in different districts or in different countries, that's extremely important, and everybody understands irrespective of their background in the different field of inquiry. That's important. But on the other hand, there can be fundamental discoveries and innovation that is equally important, which may not have actual relevance in the current days, but which will be extremely relevant tomorrow. So you can see that many of our industrial things, goods are produced based on sciences, which when they were developed were not known that they can be properly used and they can actually be used for the benefit of the human society. Okay, so our target of all these research would be the real world problem, but the basic and the fundamental research often will defy that boundary, and that should be equally encouraged, because that's how the knowledge base is expanded, and you never know what you feel today is useless may be useful tomorrow. And then the UGC guidelines also has talked about that every institution should have Office of Research Integrity because of the dishonesty and the manipulation that happens in the research community. So all the institutions should have Office of Research Integrity, which toward in the line of to some extent the IQAC that you also have in your college. So that they look at how the governance of this research and the research community should be done, and whether there is any misconduct that is involved, and whether the conflict of interest is avoided to the best of our ability in this context. Okay, so these are some of the major challenges. These challenges are not only Indian challenges, they are always there in all the top institutions as well. So these are some of the human aberration that will always be there, because as the word we have known that honesty is there, we also know dishonesty is also there. So that's a human trait that might be the part and parcel of some of the human being. So we have to be watchful so that the basic fundamental norms are not violated in conducting research, in giving the due respect to the original innovator and the property rights associated with that, and conflict of interest, if there is any, should be avoided to the best of our knowledge and ability. So all these things, and if someone deserves a credit for a product or a research that we do, that whether that should be co-author or not, so that kind of the conduct would also be there. And all said and done, our future lies in how we mentor our next generation, and that is the key. Whether we have a knowledge-based society where there will be more fundamental research and applied research for the benefit of the human society or not, would partly depend on what kind of next generation we are training in our teaching program and what kind of syllabus we are making to take them through. Okay, with this, let me just stop, and if you have any specific questions and queries, I would be happy to answer.
Thank you, sir, for your very insightful presentation. We all are very much benefited from such technical questions you answered, which will help us to publish our journal in future. I request our participant to directly, they can put their question to Senior Sir. Please, sir. What is this? What is the question? Sir.
So I have got a question. If I
Yes, sir.
can answer. So please suggest a few techniques to be followed at the preparatory stage in writing a paper. Now there is no standard procedure. It varies from one field to another. Okay. So for example, if you are writing an empirical paper in the social sciences, so then apart from the motivation that why you are raising a particular questions and addressing that questions with the help of your empirical data that you have surveyed with the use of proper methodology of survey that is borrowed from the statistics. So you have to be absolutely clear about the motivation of that study, but then that would be your initial introduction, that you try to attract the reader's mind that what you are raising is a very fundamental and important issue in the context of your paper. Now, as soon as you are done, then the next stage is about your methodology, and it has to be clearly specified. Now, this methodology in the social sciences, if you have already adopted a statistical methodology to conduct your study, then that has to be clearly elaborated. Okay. And then finally the finding of the study, and then you should demonstrate both in the introduction as well as in the conclusion that why that particular study is significant or why someone, what is the importance of study in the context. So that is more or less the standard way the social sciences are framed. But I'm sure that in languages or in the proper sciences, the things are very different. So in the standard social sciences, like in a sociology or political science or in economics, the papers are typical, or in history, the papers are typically long, and in sciences, as I am aware from my friends in sciences, they are typically short. So there is no clear-cut tools available. It differs from one subject to another, and you being trained in that particular subject must have exposure to some of these papers from your postgraduate days, which will be helpful in terms of understanding that what are the integral parts of a particular research paper. And for that, you should read very thoroughly at least some of the papers in your areas and the journals that you are targeting very clearly, so that you understand and adopt the techniques from those literature. Okay, there is no hard and fast rule. It varies from subject to subject. Now, someone asked, what is the conflict of interest? Now, conflict of interest, you can always give it a Wikipedia search. They will tell you a details description of that. But essentially, what happens in the context of sponsored research as well as research done in a team. So in the case of sponsored research, some projects are funded by some institutions, and in some cases, this conflict of interest clause is relevant because whether the funding agency allows you to independently publish that research or not. So you have to give a statement regarding that conflict of interest for most of the journals, and you have to give that there is no conflict of interest, otherwise they will not publish your paper. Now, if there is a conflict of interest which is part and parcel of your funding of the project, then obviously there is a conflict of interest, so you would not be able to publish that independently, and the funding agency might have its own norms and ways of publishing and disseminating that research. So in that case, you have to follow that. So at the time of getting the sponsor, you should be absolutely clear whether it unnecessarily ties you or binds you in some way about the free dissemination of your research that you will be conducting under that funding. The second conflict of interest is related to that many of the research activities in the experimental sciences are team activities. So they work as a team. Now, when they work as a team, the conflict of interest arises that some of the contributors, even if they are minor, and since the borderline for who has actually contributed more or who has actually contributed less is not very clear cut, so in that case, there is a potential danger that some of the junior researchers might actually be exploited in such setup. So that's why the governance of research in any organization should be such that it protects the right of all the parties who are involved in the research, okay? So that the people or the researchers, whether they are junior or somewhere related, should not be exploited on the valuable asset called intellectual property rights. So whether it is in terms of intellectual property rights, copyrights, or in terms of patent or co-authorship, so they should not be denied those rights. So there can be conflict of interest in team production, and you should be absolutely clear that what is the modus operandi for being involved in a team research, and whether that can actually lead to a situation that will create a conflict of interest for your own dissemination of the work that you are actually conducting.
Thank you, sir. One question from my side, sir. I want to know regarding the evaluation study, sir. Then what is the criteria of to do that government of India having some flagship programs? They have their own evaluation this process. If we independently evaluate, then what are the criteria, sir? Please enlighten.
So the impact evaluation, which is essentially the purpose of most of the government policy to know that whether the policies that they are adopting, whether they are actually making a difference on the ground. So that aspect is called impact evaluation of a particular program or a particular policy or a strategy that is adopted. Now, impact evaluation by itself is a way of statistically establish that whether some particular intervention is going to yield the desired result or not. Now, the last year's Nobel Prize in Economics, where one of the Indian, basically a Bengali, Abhijit Vinayak Banerjee was involved, and many of you are aware. So many of his studies were related to those kind of impact evaluation, but they are not essentially the government programs. So impact evaluation can happen in both ways. One way is that if you are proposing a new scheme or new program and you want to see whether that program has efficacy on the ground, you can conduct your own research. But being in Indian institution, we all know that we do not have adequate funding to conduct those kind of research in a large scale. So we are often restricted by the funding constraint, and as a result, it is very difficult for us to conduct. But nowadays, many of the North American universities and Indian scholars in particular, having a large access to fund, including Professor Banerjee, they have conducted many of the research in the line of impact evaluation studies, and they have tried to establish what could be the best strategy to tackle a particular problem. Okay, so these are independently done and they are funded by independent funding source. But in the case of government impact evaluation program and their own framework, this is essentially a government initiative and they have their own framework. These frameworks are often borrowed and also designed by the experts in the field. Okay, so they are not completely dissociated from the impact evaluation as a field of the science. Okay, but they may not be in conformity with what the other researchers are doing. So there can be substantial differences, and those methodological differences or the proposals or the intervention that you are trying to see the benefit or beneficial aspect of it may be different, but there is no conflict between the two. So one is government initiated impact evaluation studies. Another one can be completely independent private studies by private researchers or by our institutions if they sponsor those studies. But the major problem with the impact evaluation studies are the wherewithal in terms of the adequate funding, that whether that is available or not.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Promila does have a question that you in the chat box you may be see that in case of primary student, what should be the limit of sample size?
Okay, so this is a very important point, and this is I have not actually gone into this aspect of the journal publication, but let me tell you, this is an extremely useful.
Sir, can you, if you give me one permission, sir, can you talk to you directly regarding this matter?
I think this is to the benefit of all if I address this question here itself. You can definitely reach me. I have my the email ID, which is you can get it from the organizer. Okay, and also in the Delhi School website you will find my email ID, so you can. That's not an issue. But let me answer, because this is very interesting and I'm tempted to answer. So please allow me to answer this question.
Yeah, now, definitely. But sir, I have another question regarding my study, so that I want to know from you, because you know, sir, this is the platform only I can know from you regarding this matter. So that's why I have another query regarding this particular my study area, sir.
Let me first answer this, and then you can raise your question again. Okay.
Okay.
So let me give you a very standard observation, and that is well known. So the good authors and the authors which are prolific, they publish a lot. Okay. Now they are typically very busy. Now, whenever a paper gets assigned to those good authors who have already published in your area and they are assigned the job of the reviewer, they typically tend to delay your review, because they focus more on their own research and own publication. So we as editor, we often suffer from this, that we assign a referee, but the referee takes humongous amount of time, which is completely befitting which is completely self-defeating in terms of the research that is being evaluated, because it might lose its relevance, it might lose its context, because if it is a COVID-19 paper and if you do after review after the COVID-19 and all are gone, so then you can understand that that paper will lose its relevance. So the best authors or the best researchers, typically, they do not give enough attention to review, so they delay. On the other hand, it is a problem for the editor to assign it to somebody who is not a good researcher. In that case, the turnover might be very quick, but the feedback that you will receive might be quite random, in a sense that it may not be a proper evaluation of your work. So there is a trade-off in a sense that it can take longer, but if it is taking longer and if it is at the right hand, you will get a far in-depth review report. On the other hand, if it is a quicker, then it is a matter of luck, like a random draw. So if you are lucky, then you might get a favorable review in quick time. And then if you are unlucky, then that quick review system might end up land your paper in a mess, in a sense that no favorable outcome. So if I go back to my initial George Akerlof, both American Economic Review and Review of Economic Studies, they rejected the paper, not even sending it to the reviewer. Okay, so that's a quick review. So one should be happy that even it is rejection, it is quickly done. But remember that it was not given a fair trial. Okay, so that was only done by the Harvard Journal, Quarterly Journal of Economics. Okay, so you want, whether you want a quick turnover or whether you want that your paper should be reviewed by someone who is expert, and the experts are, how do we know experts? We know experts by their publication profile. And in that case, we sometimes make a choice, and those authors who are actually prolific authors, they take more time in terms of reviewing the paper. So that's a tragedy of our profession, and we have to bear with it.
Thank you, sir. Then we will provide, sir, your contact number and email to the participants. They will personally may contact with you.
Okay.
We are very much grateful to you for focusing such a very important area and new UGC guidelines regarding this journal and research. We are thankful to you, sir, and we wish you a good health, and we will keep contact with you in future, sir.
Thank you very much, and I have enjoyed my talk. And if it is possible, can I get the link through which I can access this talk on YouTube? I can see that it is in YouTube.
We'll automatically link to the YouTube, sir.
Okay, fine. So you provide me the link if it is there readily available. Email. Thank you very much. So I'm leaving now, and thank you all for attending this talk and raising some of the important questions which I had the opportunity to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Uday Banu Simha, in this virtual platform. We are very much grateful to you for your kind handover to actually share your ideas on this particular academic topic. Thank you very much, sir. So with this, we conclude our today's session. Good night, everyone.
Good night, sir. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Open our video.